For the whole month of July, I changed my media consumption habits. No streamed content, no downloaded content, no social media, only physical media that you can touch physically. Why? Because I've had content shoved in my gullet nonstop to the point where every morning I wake up and open my mouth like a little baby bird so the internet can puke into it. My life is slowly deteriorating into the depths of brain rot. I've had enough. I've had enough! So I wanted to try this experiment for 2 reasons. 1, to cut down on the media consumption that I habituate on a daily basis. And 2, I wanted to reintroduce myself to intentionally engaging with media. To accomplish this, I thought it would be fun to only engage with physical media. That way I'm not cutting out media entirely. I'm not a psychopath. But now I get to engage with it physically. The problem is, like a doomsday prepper, I've gathered a lot of physical media, DVDs of Shrek, at least 20 horror movies, because I'm more concerned with rewatching The Office for the 17th time instead of surviving. What are they doing to us? What are they doing to us? So I wanted to give this experiment a twist. One of my all-time favorite games is Resident Evil 4, and it has an incredible inventory system. Any guns, ammo, items that you carry have to fit in your attaché case. Attaché, you gotta say it with the accent, attaché. So I built this 10-inch by 10-inch shelf in my creepy basement. It looks like Buffalo Bill's basement from Silence of the Lambs. A finely crafted piece of work. I bet you didn't know that I'm a craftsman. If you want me to build something for you, just drop a comment below. But this fine piece of woodwork is pretty small. So for any media I consume this month, games, DVDs, books, CDs, it's got to physically fit on this shelf, the attaché shelf. So I gotta make it count. This is how it went. Week 1, day 1, I had to decide on some picks for this month to get me started. The approach is similar to the desert island question. What would I take with me to a deserted island for a month that I get to enjoy, instead of foraging for food? I wanted to read this book on astrology. It's a big boy, but we gotta start somewhere. Boom, on the shelf. The attaché shelf. I've also been wanting to read Atomic Habits, which I thought this would be a great month to read it now that I'm consuming less media and maybe trying to open up my chakras. I'm also putting on this art book that I got when I was recently in Japan. It's got all these weirdos sculpted creatures. It's right up my alley. I also just thought it'd be a good idea to put an art book on so I could, absorb true art. Whether it's something like an art book or a CD, I don't often find myself sitting down and giving it my undivided attention. I really wanted this month to be able to immerse myself in art. That's why I put on Kaiju number 8, volume 3. As far as shows go, I got Gilmore Girls season 5 because my wife and I were blasting through it. Need I say more? Just want some coziness in my life. Sue me. I wanted a couple games in there just in case I got frighteningly bored to the point where I wanted to go online and, deep dive into some conspiracies because I had nothing better to do. So I chose Elden Ring. Because that's why we're all playing it, right? I also threw on my all-time favorite game, Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door. They just did the remake. Now, while I do have a lot of CDs that I've collected over the years, I wanted to take this opportunity to listen to some new music, or music I haven't really spent time with. I ran down to Everyday Music in Portland to try to find some gems. I was feeling some moody rock, and then I came across Smashing Pumpkins' album Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness. I've heard it before, but it's used and a double album. To the attaché shelf. I browsed around some more, and then I decided on a classic, OK Computer by Radiohead. To be honest with you, I've never really listened to it before. I know. Widely considered one of the best albums of all time, at least one of the best art rock albums of all time. Radiohead is just one of those bands I just never really listened to for some reason, so I thought this would be a really good chance to absorb it for the month. Alright, I got some moody jams, but I needed something a little bit more upbeat for the summer. I found this greatest hits album of Duke Ellington for $1, so yeah, I snatched that. The fun thing though is that I don't have a CD player, so I can't even listen to this music yet. Needless to say, I quickly realized how quiet it was. I became a lot more aware of my thoughts, where usually I try to lock my thoughts in the creepy Buffalo Bill basement. Here's the thing, I work a pretty normie 9-to-5 office job, and usually I can listen to some music or YouTube videos while I'm working. See, I'm a classic do my job while listening to a YouTube video ranking the best DreamWorks villains kind of guy. So this week it felt like I was put on timeout. I was forced to do my job. But because I didn't have music or YouTube to distract my thoughts with, I just had to sit there and observe them like a bunch of buzzing bees in a jar. I guess it's kind of sad to say how unfamiliar of a feeling that was for me. This just used to be the norm for everybody for centuries. In the first couple days that you remove something out of your routine, your mind does this thing where it draws a lot of attention to the thing that you're removing. I guess just like withdrawals of your habits and impulses. It goes something like this. I think I'll listen to some music. Oh, wait, I can't. It's okay, I'll just listen to some music. Wait, what? No, I just said that I can't. Yeah, you're right. I'll just do something else. I'll listen to a Kids Bop or something. That's still music. But is it? This kind of thing can happen for a few days or longer because when you close your ears and stop letting streaming services scream into your ear holes like it's trying to wake you up from the dead so you could stay subscribed, I don't know, it's just you gotta get used to it. It feels a little uncomfy when you stop. Luckily, I had some distractions this week. It was the 4th of July this week, so the explosions of fireworks and freedom helped distract me from my urges. That is until Kendrick dropped the music video for Not Like Us, and I couldn't watch it. Guess I'm not so free after all. At the weekend, I was getting pretty thirsty for music, so I did some thrift shopping and searched for a CD player. I ended up at the Memory Den in Portland, which is like this super cool retro thrift warehouse with individual stalls that are often, curated and decorated in really cool ways. Out of the whole place, I found this one portable CD player, and because I was desperate, I brought my headphones, some batteries, and a CD to test and make sure that this bad boy worked, and it did, luckily. So I bought it and acquired a new item for the inventory. Later that day, I sat on my deck as the sun was setting and listened to my Duke Ellington CD. And I gotta say, it was a pretty incredible experience. After going through most of the week not listening to music and then, desperately trying to find a CD player and then finally listening to it, it really felt like I earned that. And something about the jazz music made it feel like I was going back in time when people used to listen to jazz on CD. It felt really good to just remove all this noise and crap out of my week so that when I did engage with the CD, I could really just experience it fully, and it was really restful. This did, however, make me realize that I think I got a music addiction. This week, I was getting pretty antsy. I really wanted to be careful not to over-listen to my CDs, so I really tried to cut down on my initial impulses to listen to something and get stimulation. That and the impulse to do two things at once. After a little while, I realized that I wasn't feeling antsy because I really wanted to listen to my jazz CD or something. It's definitely because I was craving the act of stimulation. I wanted to be occupied. I wanted to be titillated by digital delights physically. We are so conditioned these days that even if we catch just a whiff of the stink of boredom, we immediately want to plug ourselves right back into the Matrix. And I wanted to get plugged back in, baby. Get me right back in that gooey capsule thing, shove the tubes in my neck or whatever, hook me up. I think I've also held this underlying assumption that if I'm bored or I'm generally not being productive, then I'm wasting my time. Like if I'm folding laundry and I'm not listening to a podcast about how to maintain a healthy gut biome, then what the heck was this all for? What are we doing here? Sure, it's great to listen to something and learn while you're, doing a little mindless activity, but silence is not a bad thing though. There's actually a lot of really important benefits to silence that I think we often forget about. I found this article from Psych Central where the author lists off 7 benefits of silence. And if you do some research, you'll find that these things often come up as benefits of silence. They are, quote, 1, silence encourages mindfulness. 2, it promotes self-awareness. 3, it stimulates brain cells. 4, relieves stress. 5, helps with information processing. What? 6, boosts creativity. 7, aids with concentration. Already this month, I've noticed how just my abundance of silence has definitely helped me increase my self-awareness and my process and concentration on things. It's pretty simple math that if you remove a lot of noise, you just become a lot more available to yourself. And, your mind can think coherently without being interrupted. Why do you think the Greeks were philosophers? Because they didn't have CD players where they could just waste all their time listening to Linkin Park. So when they couldn't listen to Linkin Park, they had to, think in Park. Another benefit I started to see emerge from the desolate, apocalyptic soil of my mind was that I started to retain a lot of mental energy. Typically when I'm working, I'm listening to YouTube videos, I'm listening to music, podcasts, sometimes from 10 a.m. to when I get off of work. And I started to notice recently that when I do this, I just get super mentally drained. I mean, it makes total sense. I'm just doing my job, but I'm also blasting myself with gigabytes of information. This week, I was pretty shocked about how much mental energy I just had back in my days. I also started to notice one of my chakras opening up, so I did some training right away. My cat was starting to get a little nervous at my jump in power, so I would say things are going pretty good. Later this week, I gave myself more opportunities to listen to music with my undivided attention. One evening, I sat out on my deck at twilight, got a glass of wine, and listened straight through OK Computer, and Damn, it's a good-ass album, man. Listen, I don't know if you've heard of these guys, but you should check them out sometime. They're pretty good. I'm so glad that I sat down and gave this album my full attention. It definitely deserved it. As far as other media I've been engaging with, I haven't noticed a super big difference in my reading habits other than the fact that I just had more time to read. Anytime that I got bored, it was way easier to just pick up a book and read a chapter or two. Watching Gilmore Girls was coming along. I also didn't realize that my DVD is in small-ass screen format. It is what it is. But yeah, that was week 2. Not too bad. Chakras 1 of 7 open. At week 3, I went on vacay to Santa Cruz. So I was a little bit more distracted and less hopelessly dependent on consuming media. I was like a kid whose dad took him to the ice cream shop to distract him from the fact that the dog's at the vet about to be put down. Sorry about that one. Wasn't really watching TV or gaming that much, but I did acquire a couple more CDs. Let's go. I got Remy Wolf's new album, Bad Ideas, which I thought would be a great summery vibe, and it is. Then I also got Wall of Eyes by Smile, because I know it's kind of like a little side project-y thing to Radiohead, and I just need more of that art rock drama in my life. I've been reading more. I added Red Rising to the attaché shelf because my members voted for me to read that next. Thank you, Mems. I also found this used copy of JJK Volume 10 because I wanted to start reading it after the anime. I'm also mostly done with Atomic Habits, and yeah, I'm really glad that I decided to read it this month. A lot of its subject matter ties in with the experiment. This book is a really easy read and gives a lot of insight on the psychology of habits, while giving very practical advice on how to build and break habits. Yeah, so basically, habit forming is essentially like a psychological hack. It's your brain's way of making complicated tasks easier by making them more automatic. It's something we do very naturally, like walking or brushing your teeth. You don't even think about it now. But there was one day when walking it was a challenge. For me, it was like high school, you know? So when you understand the psychology of habit forming, you can then use that knowledge to your advantage. As I read, I started to notice how content consumption doesn't just happen to be addictive for people, but that it's designed to be addictive. It's designed to be habit forming. This may not be the most surprising concept in the world, but it was really interesting to see how these habit-forming techniques are so clearly demonstrated in our streaming and social media services. Quick Atomic Habits tangent. Author James Clear provides 4 simple laws that dictate how habits are formed and 4 inversions to these laws that help you break habits. The 4 laws are: 1. Make it obvious. 2. Make it attractive.
Maybe physically attractive?
3. Make it easy.
Whoa.
4. Make it satisfying. The way streaming and media services deliver us content fits perfectly within these 4 laws, and it is most certainly designed that way. In Law 1, things are made obvious through things like notifications. It's known as a cue, a signal that prompts a desire. In Law 2, you gotta make it attractive. And yeah, what isn't attractive about the stimulation of a new post, some new information, a new video in your sub feed? It's totally the shiny new object syndrome. In Law 3, this is an interesting one. Consuming media is made very easy as possible, because they don't want you for 1 minute to step back and realize that you have been online for 3 hours since you got home for work, and you were barely halfway through taking your work pants off when you collapsed on the bed and you've just been watching TikToks of the various properties of crystals. Think of YouTube's autoplay feature, or just how immediately you can churn through TikToks. You don't even have to press a button. On Netflix, you barely have time to read the synopsis of the movie before you're 40 minutes in. It costs you virtually nothing to continue consuming content. Just your 20s. Just your young adult life. And in Law 4, yeah, it's satisfying. It's satisfying to clear that notification, see some new information, get the stimulation and all that. It's satisfying, but it's not necessarily edifying. Now I'm gonna come in with some tinfoil hat energy to say that now that most of our media has to be accessed through these streaming services, it is far more manipulative and nefarious than if I were to just go to a music store and buy a CD. Interacting with these streaming services feels like if I just wanted to like chat with a buddy about a car or something, but I have to go to a car salesman to do that. We know where that's gonna go. Off the lot, in a car. The way that companies build things in, like dark patterns, which are like these invisible manipulations to make certain choices, it really makes me want to exercise caution when I'm about to be fed at the media trough. It is no secret that the companies behind these services are exploiting our most base psychology for their own gain. Guys, I think I'm cracking the code. I think my mind has finally expanded to new sizes that I've never experienced before. I'm starting to see beyond the veil of code that the Matrix shrouds us with. It's also starting to make sense why the earth is flat. Week 4.5. I was really looking forward to this camping trip at the end of the week. We were gonna leave on Friday, and that happened to be the day that Porter Robinson's new album Smile dropped. So I was gonna pop down to Everyday Music and grab it before we left so I could listen to it in the woods for the first time of all places. But then I found out though that while it dropped on streaming that day, it doesn't come out on CD till like next month. I guess I'm just gonna have to continue listening to Radiohead. I'm just kidding, Radiohead, I love you. Come on. As much as I do enjoy and appreciate physical media, I mean, like, I can't deny that it's just way more inconvenient and also just expensive. For the amount of money that I've paid for CDs in this past month, could have paid for at least several months of Spotify subscription, you know? Camping trip was great though, and I definitely still brought my CD player, so it was pretty clear to me at this point that if I was willing to bring all that crap into the woods, yeah, I'm addicted to music, and maybe I wanna be. I will not admit myself into rehab, so don't lasso me up and drag me there. At the lake, I listened to OK Computer again and actually read through the lyrics. And it's a really moving album, man. Just the act of sitting down and taking the time to really absorb something was just really restful. And it was so much better to read the lyrics on the little insert instead of Genius, where you're gonna get as many ads as possible blasted straight into your eye holes, as well as just a bunch of random ass opinions from intellectuals. I finished Atomic Habits, and yeah, great book. Highly recommend it if you want to be more mindful and take better control of your unconscious actions. I didn't finish season 5 of Gilmore Girls, but I did make it to the episode where Richard and Emily, renew their vows. Woo! That is an episode, let me tell you. I put this pretty big astrology book on, and I only ended up reading 1 page on the first day. Whoops. I got through the first quarter-ish of Red Rising, and it's a really good book, actually. I'm very excited for it. I'll share more of my thoughts on a reading log for the members. This past week, I popped open that art book with the Japanese ceramic cryptids, and pretty sweet. And one last thing I started to notice as I was nearing the end of this experiment is that I was starting to get hungry for YouTube videos again, but this time was a little different. I was starting to crave watching content creators who really inspire me creatively. I really do love YouTube, and the content that I appreciate the most is when creators contribute something really impressive, entertaining, and just good for the platform. It often inspires me to do the same. I could tell that this past month really helped me reset some of my addictive behaviors so that my actual desire for the value of these things can break through like the sun just shining through rainy clouds. Now that I'm done with this experiment, I had to reintegrate back into digital society, like I was released from digital prison or something. What did I miss while I was gone? Well, I went to YouTube to find out, and boy howdy, am I glad to be back online. I'm gonna be real with you, Chief. I love some internet drama. I love some slop talk. I ain't above it. But if I did not do this experiment, I would have let all of this crap distract me from a month of quieting my mind, finding rest through enjoying music, reading and learning new things undistracted, and overall just less anxious because I'm not letting all this consumption eat away my time and energy. The only thing that I'm truly bummed about that I missed because of this experiment was missing the Not Like Us video on the 4th of July. I feel like I missed a crucial moment of being an American. I mean, yeah, I watched the video later, but it's not the same. Not the same. All that being said, I want to take this moment to share with you a couple of the key things that I learned during this experiment and some advice that I'd offer to you if you're interested. So the first thing that I learned is that I'm addicted to music. Out of the lineup of media, it was really clear to me which one kind of stuck out as me having an unhealthy relationship with. I don't think most people often recognize that they may be addicted to music because it just seems to be kind of harmless and passive, and you can listen to music while you're just doing stuff. And what I found early on was that I didn't so much miss the content itself, but rather the act of consuming it, the act of stimulation. This month made it really clear to me how discontent and irritable I felt when I couldn't listen to music at any time of any day. I have rarely in my life withheld choosing music to that degree. It took at least towards the end of the month before I started to experience a shift in the craving of the value of content versus the act of consuming it. Moving forward, I definitely want to spend more time doing what I did this month and experiencing music with my undivided attention, really taking the time to sit down and enjoy something that I really deeply love. But if I'm listening to it so often to the point where it just becomes noise in my life, I think that's a good sign that I need to reconsider my relationship with it. And if at the end of the year there's an album that I really liked and really enjoyed, like I definitely want to consider getting a physical copy of it. That way it has a tangible weight to the art and the value of it, for me at least. Maybe getting a CD, maybe getting a vinyl. That way it could help inform my posture that I am going to experience this thing, as opposed to just, blast my brain with it. Some advice I'd offer to you relating to this point is yeah, maybe consider trying this experiment in an area of your life and to the level of your comfortability. You certainly don't have to do it to the extent I did, but maybe consider, trying it for like a day or a week. And if you watch too much TV, maybe you can try it with TV shows, or maybe if you're gaming too much, try it with games. Try this to some degree so you can see for yourself what you are habitually drawn to occupying your time with, and if you need to reconsider your relationship with it. In one of the first chapters of Atomic Habits, James Clear encourages you to write down all the habits that you have in a given day. I think this is a very good exercise. And in the context of this video, I would encourage you to write down all your media consumption habits. I think even writing them out plainly might help you see, an area of your life that you need to explore. And while you should definitely do this exercise of writing out the habits, doing this experiment may almost be like a physical version of this experiment. The next thing I learned is really just how much mental energy I got back from having more spaces of silence throughout my week. I constantly feel like I need to be doing two things at once: working and listening to a podcast, going on a walk and listening to music, gaming and putting on a YouTube video in the background. Not bad things within themselves, but if you can't just focus on doing one of those things without getting antsy or bored, then that might be a sign that you want too much stimulation. Because I don't leave room for silence, I think it also decreases how discontent I am. No, not content, content. Moving forward, I definitely want to have spaces in my days and weeks for silence. Every day, I typically try not to go on my phone and surf the web before 9 a.m. Yeah, I could check text messages or whatever, but no videos or music before 9 a.m. I just found that for myself that if I consume that early in the day, it just makes me want to consume more and it snowballs real fast. So I'm definitely considering having a day where I don't consume media till noon or something like that. And this is the same advice I would offer to you as well. Try setting aside a day or a time in your week where you have no content consumption, no stimulation for a time frame. Maybe that's just a time where you meditate or something like that. At the very least, try creating space where you can be fully present to yourself or others, even if that means total silence, and being content with that. Content. I also want to point out that I'm not saying with this video that, social media and streaming content is completely bad either. It is a special privilege to have instant access to catalogs of information, entertainment, and online spaces in which we can share and discuss it all. These are truly incredible feats in technology that I appreciate dearly. But when these things are in the hands of corporations and brands that are trying to manipulate us for our attention and sales, I definitely want to be more careful about what I give myself over to. Our time and psychology is constantly being fought for by companies and marketing. And I think now more than ever, we really have to fight for it back if we want to use our time and minds how we want to. Well, thank you for watching, everybody. I hope this was insightful. Let me know if there's any other goofy experiments you want me to try out. I really appreciate it if you watched this long. And if you're interested in me doing psychotic explorations of things, consider subscribing. Thank you so much, channel members who are supporting me in what I'm doing. May the snail be with you, and yeah, peace.